this is your first time here and you want to watch true ghost encounter stories, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you can be notified when we upload a new video. I live in Miami with my boyfriend. However, I grew up in Naples and that's where the rest of my family lives. We go there for major holidays and birthdays to visit. So last Thanksgiving, we decided we would take our 2-month-old daughter with us on our trip so my family could see her. We left around 12:30 p.m. to head there, which would put us there at about 2:30 depending on traffic. We figured we would leave before 8 p.m. We were new parents and that was the first time we had ever driven anywhere far with her. Well, one thing leads to another and we end up staying way past 8 and instead we leave somewhere between 11 to 11:30 p.m. The only positive about leaving that late is that there would be no traffic and Alligator Alley would be pretty much empty. The negatives are that there are literally no lights for most of the drive and you can't see what is beyond your headlights. So if you broke down, it would be pretty terrifying in the pitch black. That is always my fear when I make that drive. My family told us we could crash there but we didn't have anything for overnight. And the drive should be less than 2 hours since there isn't any traffic. So we put our daughter in the car seat, dreading the drive back and thankfully she passes out instantly. My boyfriend is driving and we were about 30 to 45 minutes in and he looks at me and says, "Babe, I'm really tired. Do you think you could take over?" My boyfriend hates my driving, so I know he wouldn't ask me to drive unless he was really tired. Plus, he drove on the way there so I didn't mind at all. I told him to pull over at the next rest area. So he keeps driving waiting for a rest area sign. And as we were driving, I'm talking to him to keep him awake. We end up seeing a sign that says rest area ahead. He says he's going to pull into that one when we get there. Well, as we were talking, our daughter wakes up and we hear her crying and making different noises in the backseat. Then she starts crying hysterically. So we were both like, great, now we have to change her diaper. But it wasn't really a big deal because we were pulling up to the rest stop anyways. It would just take a little longer. The rest stop wasn't a rest stop that had buildings with bathrooms and vending machines. This one was basically just a long parking lot with one row of empty parking spaces, which basically just looped back onto the road. Really simple, nothing much to it. The parking spaces face out to the woods. The only thing separating the woods from the parking spaces was a tall metal fence that only stretched to the end of the parking spaces. So he pulls into the last parking spot just before the fence ends and we both get out, leaving the car and headlights on. He goes to the passenger side and I go to the back seat to change the baby. I take her out of her car seat and sit in the back changing her diaper. Meanwhile, she is still screaming at the top of her lungs. I finally finish changing and get her to calm down and I walk her around the car back to her car seat. So I'm crouching over buckling her in and I hear my boyfriend in a really confused voice, "Babe, get in the car now." He is literally the hardest person to scare. So to hear his voice that way got my attention. So I stand straight up from my crouching position and look in front of us. My heart literally sank in. There is a big fat clown on the other side of the fence where my headlights were shining. The top of his head looked like bald and he had bright red hair sticking out on the sides of his head. He had really creepy face paint on. He even had a red clown nose and it looked like there was something splattered across his costume. He was standing there silently, his face pressed up against the fence to the point where his skin was seeping through the holes, and he was smiling the creepiest smile I have ever seen in my life. Sheer terror came over me. I ran around the back of my car, my heart racing a mile a minute. The clown lets out the creepiest laugh I have ever heard, and he starts shaking the fence violently. And then he starts walking toward the end of the fence slowly, like he was going to come around. As he is walking, he starts singing while gliding his fingers across the fence. The way his voice sounded while he was singing, it was so chilling. I can't describe it. It was a really low tone, shaky psychotic clown voice. I am assuming he sang it because he heard my daughter crying, but who knows? I jump into the driver's side after what feels like forever and lock all the doors. I'm literally shaking throughout my body, running on pure adrenaline. My boyfriend is in my ear saying, "What the hell, let's get the hell out of here." This clown is now on our side of the fence, right in front of us. As I throw my car in reverse, he starts beating his hands on the hood of my car, screaming something I couldn't make out because I was in pure nope mode. My boyfriend is yelling, "If it gets in front of the car, just run it over." So I was fully prepared to do so, but he didn't. I sped out of there like a bat out of hell. I look in my rear view and the creepy clown is just standing there in the middle of the rest area, waving us off. We got onto the main road and I was driving faster than I have ever driven in my life. We were so stunned and traumatized. All we could manage to get out was what just happened for the remainder of the ride. We still speculate what he was doing out there at 12 a.m., dressed like a clown in the middle of the Everglades on Thanksgiving night. We considered he was trying to scare people, but you would need some serious braveness to pull that kind of a stunt out there in the Everglades. People that live around there don't mess around. I truly believe that in the way he was singing and screaming, he was absolutely out of his mind. I don't have any other explanation. It gives us goosebumps to this day. It's been a year now, and we are still trying to answer the question of what his intentions were. And what terrifies me the most and gives me chills is the fact that we were parked there for at least 10 minutes. While I was in the back seat changing my 2-month-old, being watched by some psycho dressed as a clown, I always wonder how long he was watching. The world is full of crazy people. Living in Miami, I really thought I had seen it all. But I was wrong. Needless to say, this Thanksgiving, we are staying home.